In the spiritual world, the world where spirits and angels live, things look much the same as they do in the natural world where we live. So similar that at first glance there seems to be no difference. You see plains there, mountains, hills, and cliffs with valleys between them. You see bodies of water and many other things that we find on earth. However, they all come from a spiritual source, so they are visible to the eyes of spirits and angels, but not to our eyes, because we are in a natural world. Spiritual people see things that come from a spiritual source, and natural people see things that come from a natural source. This means that there is no way for our eyes to see things in the spiritual world unless we are allowed to be in the spirit, or until we become spirits after death. On the other hand, angels and spirits are utterly incapable of seeing anything in the natural world, unless they are with some one of us who has been allowed to talk with them. Our eyes are adapted to receive the light of the natural world, and the eyes of angels and spirits are adapted to receive the light of the spiritual world. Yet, the two kinds of eyes look exactly alike. Natural people cannot understand that the spiritual world is like this, and sense-centered people even less so, being people who believe nothing unless they can see it with their physical eyes and touch it with their hands. This means they believe only what they glean through their sight and touch, and that they think on this basis. So their thought is material and not spiritual. Because of this resemblance between the spiritual world and the natural world, it is hard for people after death to realize that they are not in the world where they were born, the world they have just left. So they actually call death nothing but a crossing from one world into another like it. On this kind of resemblance between the two worlds, see the discussion above of representations and appearances in heaven. The heavens there are on the higher ground. The world of spirits there is in the lower areas, and beneath both lie the hells. The heavens are not visible to spirits in the world of spirits unless their inner sight has been opened. Sometimes they do appear, looking like gleaming white clouds. This is because heaven's angels are in a more inward state as regards their intelligence and wisdom, so they are beyond the sight of people in the world of spirits. The spirits who are in the plains and valleys can see each other, though when they are being sorted out, which happens when they are being let into their inner natures, then evil spirits do not see the good ones. The good ones can still see the evil ones, but they turn away from them, and spirits who turn away become hard to see. The hells themselves, though, are not visible, because they are closed. All one can see are the entrances, called gates, when they open to admit spirits like the ones already there. All the gates into the hells open from the world of spirits, none from heaven. There are hells everywhere. They are under the mountains and hills and cliffs and under the plains and valleys. The openings or gates to the hells that are under the mountains and hills and cliffs look at first sight like crevices or fissures in the rocks. Some of them are quite broad and open, some narrow and confined, full of rough places. All of them seem dim and gloomy when you look in, although the hellish spirits who live there have the kind of illumination you get from glowing coals. Their eyes are adjusted to the reception of this kind of light. This is because when they were living in the world, they were in darkness about divine truths owing to their denial of them. They were in a kind of light as to their false convictions because they affirmed them, which gave their eyesight the form it has. This is also why heaven's light is darkness to them, so when they come out of their caves, they cannot see anything. The entrances or gates to the hells that are under the plains and valleys have different forms. Some of them are like the ones under the mountains, hills, and cliffs. Some of them are like caves and caverns. Some are like large chasms and quagmires. Some like swamps, and some like stagnant ponds. All of them are covered over and are visible only when evil spirits are being cast in there from the world of spirits. When they are opened, Something breathes out like the smoky fire we see in the air from conflagrations, or like flame without smoke, or like the kind of soot that comes from a hot chimney, or like a dark storm cloud. I have heard that evil spirits neither see nor feel this, because when they are in it, they are in their element and therefore in the delight of their life. This is because these appearances correspond to the evils and distortions they are absorbed in. The fire corresponding to their hatred and vengefulness, and the smoke and soot to their consequent distortions, the flame to the evils of their self-love, and the dark storm cloud to the distortions that follow from it. I have been allowed to look into the hells and see what they were like inside, for when it pleases the Lord, a spirit or angel who is overhead can probe visually into the depths and examine their nature with no coverings in the way. I have also been allowed to explore them in this fashion. Some of the hells look to me like caves and caverns leading into cliffs and then slanting downward or off at an angle. Some of these hells looked like the lairs or dens of wild animals in the woods. Some like the vaulted chambers and crypts found in mines, with caverns leading downward. Many of the hells are threefold. The higher ones look gloomy inside because the people there are fond of malicious distortions. The lower ones look fiery, though because their inhabitants are devoted to malice itself. Darkness in fact corresponds to malicious distortions, and fire to the actual malice. That is, the people in the deeper hells are the ones who acted from evil on a deeper level, while the people in the hells that are not so deep acted from evils on a more superficial level. That is, on the basis of their malicious distortions. In some hells, you can see what look like the ruins of houses and cities after a fire where hellish spirits live and hide out. In the milder hells, you can see crude huts sometimes grouped in something like a city, with alleyways and streets. There are hellish spirits in these homes with constant quarrels, hostility, beating, and violence. The streets and alleys are full of thieves and robbers. In some hells, there are nothing but brothels foul to look at, and full of all kinds of filth and excrement. There are also dark forests where hellish spirits roam like wild beasts, and there are underground caves there where they flee when they are being threatened by others. Then there are desert areas where everything is barren and sandy, with rugged cliffs here and there, with caves in them, and huts scattered around as well. People are exiled from the hells into these desert places, if they have suffered to the limit, especially people who in the world were craftier than others in the skills of deliberate manipulation and deceit. This kind of life is their final lot. As to the location of specific hells, no one can know this, not even an angel in heaven, only the Lord. Roughly though, their location is recognized by the quarter where they are found. Like the heavens, the hells are differentiated into regions, and in the spiritual world, regions are marked off according to loves, because all regions in heaven start from the Lord as the sun, who is the east. So since the hells are the opposite of the heavens, their regions start from the opposite direction, the west. On this subject, see the chapter on the four quarters in heaven. This is why the hells in the western quarter are the worst and most fearful of all, worse and more fearful incrementally, the farther they are from the east. The people in these hells are people who were absorbed in self-love in the world, and therefore in contempt for others, hostility toward people who did not support them, and hatred and vengefulness against people who did not admire and revere them. In the farthest regions live people from the so-called Catholic religion who wanted to be worshipped as gods, and who therefore burned with hatred against anyone who did not acknowledge their power over human souls and over heaven. They have the same kind of animus, the same kind of hatred and vengefulness toward people who oppose them as they did in the world. They take particular delight in cruelty, but in the other life, this is turned against them, for in their hells, and the western quarter is full of them, they rage against each other because everyone is claiming divine power. There is more about this, though, in my booklet, The Last Judgment and Babylon Destroyed. Still, we cannot know how the hells are arranged in this region, only that the most horrifying are off to the side toward the northern quarter, and the less horrifying toward the southern quarter. That is, the horror of the hells decreases between the northern region and the southern, and also successively toward the east. The people toward the east there are the ones who were foolish and did not believe in the divine, but still were not given to the same kind of hatred and vengefulness or trickery as the people who are deeper in the western quarter. At present, there are no hells in the eastern region. The people who were there have been transferred to the front of the western quarter. There are a good many hells in the northern and southern regions. The people there were absorbed in love of the world during their lives, and therefore in various kinds of evil, such as enmity, hostility, thievery, robbery, fraud, avarice, and callousness. The worst hells of this sort are in the northern quarter, and the milder ones in the south. Their dreadfulness increases the nearer they are to the western region, and the farther they are from the south, and decreases toward the east, and also toward the south. Behind the hells in the western region lie dense forests where malevolent spirits roam like wild animals, and much the same is true of the hells in the northern quarter. Behind the hells in the southern quarter, though, lie the deserts just described. So much for the location of the hells. As for the number of the hells, there are just as many hells as there are angelic communities in the heavens, because there is a hellish community that corresponds inversely to each heavenly one. I explained in the chapter on the communities that constitute heaven and the chapter on the vastness of heaven that there are countless heavenly communities, all differentiated according to their virtues of love, thoughtfulness, and faith. The same holds true for the hellish communities, which are differentiated according to the evils opposite to those virtues. There is an infinite variety to everything evil, just as there is to everything good. People do not grasp this if they have only simplistic concepts of particular evils, like contempt, hostility, hatred, vengefulness, deceit, and the like. But they should realize that each of these contains so many distinctive forms, each of which also contains distinctive or particular forms, that a whole volume wouldn't be adequate to list them. The hells are so clearly arranged according to the distinctive features of everyone's evil, that nothing could be more definitely and clearly arranged. We can gather from this that they are beyond counting, some near each other and some far removed, according to the general, specific, and particular differences of their evils. Further, there are hells below hells. Some communicate by traffic to and fro, many by emanations, all in strict accord with the affinities of each genus and species of evil with others. I have been given some knowledge of the number of the hells from the fact that they are underneath every mountain, hill, and cliff, every plain and valley, and that they stretch out there far and wide and deep. In short, it is as though the whole heaven and the whole world of spirits are hollowed out with one continuous hell under them. So much for the number of the hells.